Let me tell you something that'll stick in your mind, because honestly, I still think about it whenever someone tells me the world's moved past old-fashioned hate. Picture this: a luxury women's clinic in Atlanta, all marble, glass, and the kind of air that makes you wonder if they bottle it straight from Wall Street where money buys silence, and the receptionist's smile is just another part of the decor. So there I was, 6 months pregnant, standing outside Eastbrook Women's Medical Center on the corner of Juniper and Pontolian, one hand on my belly, the other clutching the worn strap of my tote bag, trying not to let the nerves show. That morning, the world felt soft and gentle sunlight on the sidewalk. Mothers laughing, retirees talking about nothing in particular, but inside me was a knot. And you know what I mean? If you've ever had to walk into a place where you just know you're going to be watched, measured, weighed, and probably found wanting. My husband Ethan was supposed to be with me, but he'd been called into the field of crisis at the U.S. District Office and promised he'd make it by 10:30. He always kept his word, and honestly, that's why I married him. But this was our first 4D scan, the one you wait for, dream about, and I was doing alone, walking into this temple of polished stone with nothing but hope and a prayer and my baby turning slow inside me. The receptionist, a young blonde woman, barely looked up when I gave her my name Danielle Carter, 10:30 with DR. Halbert-like, she was doing me a favor by acknowledging I was even there. She pushed a clipboard my way, all business, and her eyes lingered just a little too long. You know, that look that says, "Why are you here?" So I took the clipboard, sat down, filled out the forms with perfect penmanship even though my fingers were shaking, and tried not to notice the side glances from the women with their designer handbags, or the way the older white man across from me refused to meet my eyes. I kept telling myself, this is about the baby. You're here for your child. Just get through it. Every minute Ethan wasn't by my side felt like another layer peeled off, another wall falling. Then a nurse called my no smile, just a clipboard, eyes scanning me like she was looking for contraband. Down the hallway, soft music trying and failing to cover up the underlying tension, portraits of white mothers cradling newborns everywhere, and I caught myself wondering if anyone who looked like me had ever made onto those walls. Inside the exam room, I perched on the edge of the bed, checking the time, 10:43. Ethan was late, but I knew he was on his way. Then, without a knock or a greeting, Dr. Lindsay Halbert walked in. She didn't shake my hand, didn't introduce herself, just stood there, coat immaculate, blonde hair pulled so tight it looked painful, and gave me a stare that felt less medical, more personal. "So, you're Danielle Carter?" she asked, dripping with something I couldn't quite name at first. I tried to keep it professional, told her I was here for the 4D scan, and she just looked me up and down, not like a doctor, more like a critic. "You came alone?" she finally said, like that was some kind of sin. "My husband had an emergency at work. He's on his way." I managed, my voice steady, but my hands curling tighter. Then she smirked. She actually smirked and dropped it. "Let me guess, you don't know who the father is?" Or maybe he just decided he'd had enough. That's when I realized this wasn't about medicine. This was about who she thought I was, a problem, not a person. I straightened up, every muscle tensed, told her I'd scheduled, confirmed, showed up on time, and deserved the same respect as anyone else. She moved in closer, hissing low, so only I could hear. "You people are always respectful when you want something, but you bring drama, disruption, not today, not here." You ever been so shocked you feel the blood drain from your face? My heart was pounding so hard, I thought it might knock something loose. I told her, calmly as I could, "I'm leaving. I don't have to sit here and be insulted." But she blocked the door, eyes narrowed. "Oh, you're not going anywhere. In fact, I'm missing something me Cartier watch. I set it here this morning, and now it's gone." She looked right at me, making sure the accusation was loud and clear. I was floored, falsely accused, just like that, because I was the easy target. Before I could respond, she stormed out. Next thing I know, 2 security officers, both white, both stone-faced, step in, flanking me like I'm some kind of threat. The older one, clipboard in hand, informs me I'm a person of interest in a theft. The younger one, chewing gum like this was a game, told me to hand over my phone and said I could explain myself downstairs. I told them I was pregnant, scared, needed to call my husband, but they just cut me off. "You'll have your chance after we're done." So they led me quietly but firmly through back corridors, past locked doors, into a security room so gray and cold it might as well have been a holding cell. They took my phone, told me I was being detained for investigation, but not arrested yet. You know, in that room, with no cameras, flickering lights, and the sound of gum popping behind me, I felt more alone than I ever had. They didn't question me, didn't search me, just kept me there, holding me because they could, because someone in a white coat decided I looked guilty. Minutes crawled by. I sat there, hands on my belly, trying to breathe slow, not let panic win, imagining Ethan at the front desk, demanding answers, working out in his head exactly what had happened. And sure enough, out there in the waiting room, Ethan arrived tall, sharp suit, DOJ lapel pin catching the light, moving through the room like someone who expected to be listened to. The receptionist tried to stall him, but Ethan didn't waver. He showed his federal badge, made it clear this wasn't just some angry husband, was Deputy Director, Office of Civil Rights Enforcement, and he wanted his wife now. When she tried to redirect, he leaned in, voice just a touch firmer, and asked again. Eventually, she cave-pointed him downstairs. Ethan strode through those hallways with a purpose you could feel in the floor. He walked into the security room like he owned the place, demanded to know who ordered my detainment, what proof they had, and insisted on seeing the surveillance footage. The guard tried to brush him off, said it was protocol, but he wasn't having it. You're not trained in constitutional law. I am. You violated several statutes already. Give me the footage before I call the state attorney general. You could hear the fear crackle in that little room, but Ethan never raised his voice, didn't have to. The older guard finally turned, queued up the security tape, and we watched as it showed me walking in, sitting down, not touching a thing except the door and the chair. The doctor left her watch on the tray, and a cleaning attendant came through, but the watch was still there when the camera cut out conveniently, right when it mattered most. Ethan pressed hard. He retrieved my phone, told the guards their actions were not just negligent, but possibly unlawful, and announced he'd be filing formal complaints with the DOJ. For the first time all day, I felt seen, protected, not because Ethan was my husband, but because he knew how to fight the fight I couldn't win alone. We marched upstairs together, every eye in the hallway watching not because of me, but because Ethan Carter had just changed the rules. The clinic's ethics board convened immediately, and Dr. Halbert, suddenly not so composed, sat across from us, the weight of her assumptions hanging in the air. Ethan laid out the facts. I've been falsely accused, detained, humiliated, denied my rights, all on the basis of who I was and how I looked. Dr. Halbert tried to defend herself, saying it was protocol, but I met her eyes and told her exactly what she'd said to me, word for word. The board chair, voice shaking, promised immediate review. Ethan requested public apology, institutional reform, mandatory anti-bias training, and Dr. Halbert's suspension. No one argued. Later that week, the clinic released a formal apology. Dr. Halbert was put on leave, and they initiated a full review of their policies. But here's the thing, it didn't end with me. 2 weeks later, I stood outside that same clinic, reporters in front of me, Ethan and civil rights advocates by my side, and spoke for every black woman who's ever been treated as a suspect in spaces meant for care. We won't disappear just to make you comfortable. We deserve better. The applause was heavy like the weight of finally being heard. And as the sun broke through those stubborn Atlanta clouds, I looked down at my belly and smiled, not because the fight was over, but because for once the silence was broken. So, let's open it up. What would you have done in my shoes? Drop your thoughts below, hit like and subscribe if you want more stories that go beyond headlines. And let's keep this conversation about justice and dignity going, because it's about time, don't you think?